You're listening to Leadership Recalibrated, where we dismantle outdated leadership playbooks and explore the new way to lead. I'm Lori Lalonde, founder of Her Executive Ascent, and I created this podcast because I was tired of hearing the same recycled advice about what it takes to be a good leader. You know the scripts: be more confident, lean in, develop executive presence. But what if those scripts were written for a leadership model that no longer works? What if the future of leadership looks less like commanding authority and more like strategic influence, emotional intelligence, and authentic power? Each week, we take on the questions most leadership programs avoid, the power dynamics nobody teaches, and the decisions that actually shape your career. This is where you stop following the old rules and start designing the leadership career that fits who you are now and where you're going next. Let's recalibrate. There's a moment every high-achieving founder eventually faces, and most don't see it coming until they're already buried in it. The business is growing, revenue is coming in, and somehow everything still feels chaotic. The decisions pile up, the team is waiting, and the CEO who built it finds herself at the center of everything. Not because she wants to be, but because that's simply how things evolved. What got her here won't get her there. And that's exactly where today's conversation begins. Welcome to Leadership Recalibrated, a leadership insight series from Her Executive Ascent. In this episode, we're exploring one of the most underexplored transitions in entrepreneurship: the shift from founder operating mode to true executive leadership, and what it really takes to become the architect of your business instead of its bottleneck. Today's guest is Nana Obeng. She is a strategic operations partner and fractional COO for women CEOs leading established revenue generating businesses, navigating the shift from steady growth to structured scale. With over 15 years of experience across engineering, corporate strategy, and entrepreneurship, she brings systems thinking and executive level judgment to complex growth decisions. After co founding a consumer brand and working alongside women led businesses, she saw the same pattern repeatedly: ambitious women building exceptional companies while carrying significant responsibilities outside of work. What they needed wasn't more tools, they needed the right operational partner. Today, Nana partners with women CEOs to reduce operational noise and scale with clarity, financial discipline, and operational leverage. In this conversation, we unpack the signs that a founder has become her own worst bottleneck, why high achieving women are especially vulnerable to this trap, how AI can accelerate thinking without replacing executive judgment, and the one leadership rule every scaling founder needs to retire for good. If you're building something meaningful and starting to feel the weight of your own growth, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Hi, Nana. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. So excited to have this conversation with you.
I am too. I'm so grateful that you made time for me today. I know you're very busy, so I
Thanks
do
for the invite.
appreciate that.
Thanks for the invite as well. So
But before we get into some of the questions that I have for you, can you share what you do, what your experience is, what you want the audience to know about you?
awesome. Okay, so I think the natural place to start is taking you back through my journey. I started as an engineer. I worked in the pharmaceutical and biotech industries. So I worked as a consultant and I worked within industry as well. And in those spaces, I learned a lot about structure, systems thinking, and cross functional team leadership. And so in that period of time, I recognized that what I really was looking for was bigger impact with my leadership abilities. And so that started me on a new journey into entrepreneurship, believe it or not. I co founded a business. It was an e commerce feminine hygiene brand. And I worked leading operations for a small business that was acquired by $1 billion business. So that was exciting. And during that period of time, what I could recognize was that while smaller businesses, they're moving fast. That's sort of what they do. The business overall, the organization wasn't necessarily evolving with the speed, with the growth of the business. And so Inside of that experience with small businesses, I was working with women-led businesses at the same time and also observing them. And what I started to really recognize while these women were extremely ambitious, very capable individuals with lots of vision, they had a decision load which was quite heavy. And so, what I mean by that is that we know that in this moment, women still carry a disproportionate load of responsibility and therefore decisions domestically. So, while these women have, great ambitions for their professional life and their entrepreneurial life, they had to make a lot of decisions in the home as well as at work. And whether that means caring for your children, aging parents, or for your own health. And so I started to see that what was missing was the fact that they didn't have, let's say, a strong strategic operations partner, which is what I am. And I started to recognize and really get excited about partnering with these women. And so I've taken upon myself to hold up the torch and find these women to support them and help them to restructure their operations and their decision infrastructure so that they're able to grow these businesses and maintain them like in a sustainable way and ensure that they're not the bottleneck within their businesses and their organizations.
That's awesome. And definitely, I can envision the challenges that go with that. So, no two problems in corporate journeys are the same. Everyone
Correct.
has different and unique challenges. So, this is interesting. I would love to know what is the stickiest challenge that you've encountered and walk me through step by step. Like, how would you then take someone through that journey?
I work with businesses that are scaling. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the journey from that early stage founder to one that is managing and leading a business that is scaling. And so the challenge really is in the shift in the mindset. And so in the early stages, the founder or CEO is really thinking mostly about opportunities, making fast decisions. And also, the business is very much identity driven, right? So while you're trying to be successful, the business it's very personal. And so they're at that stage initially, but the shift, which is difficult, is going into that more mature C-level type of role. And what that really looks like is being aware of your constraints as a business, being very conscious of your margins, having architecture around like decision flow, and really understanding capacity. What is your capacity? What is it that you might be needing in the future? I think that shift and that difficulty is present in all founders. And what I've noticed, particularly with women, because of the nature of how we operate within the world, we usually achieve success by building our credibility through competence, of course. We build trust by being very responsive, and we build momentum by over delivering. And I'm sure like a lot of us can relate to that. And I would say that all founders have this sort of challenge, but in particular, high achieving women definitely have that. And the challenge here is when we're talking about shifting from one mindset to the other, is that you have grown the business with this sort of mindset and these ways of building your business. And so you have proven success, let's say, of doing all these things and being successful. The challenge now is that once your business is scaling and you have more responsibilities, more decisions to make, and you remain the center with that founder's mindset, then you start to get this sort of over functioning. And what happens is that you are involved in everything that probably you shouldn't be involved in. And the operation becomes very messy and clumsy because there's other people that should probably be taking on these responsibilities. And so, what is really happening in this moment when that shift is not happening is that the CEO or founder is actually the operating system. They become the operating system. What they need to do is now become the architect of the operating system, right? That's the shift that really needs to happen. That's the tricky part. That's the one thing that I see that CEOs find difficult. One thing I will say, though, that I see more often in women than probably men is that women leaders, they typically feel the responsibility of the team more emotionally rather than operationally. I'm not saying it doesn't happen the other way. It can. And I'm not saying all women are like this, but more than often they're holding on to that emotional piece, which can be a little bit dangerous sometimes and also affect the rest of the team and the organization, mostly because when there's a lot of emotion attached, sometimes there's a delay in decision making, and delays have consequences inside of the business, inside of the teams, and inside of how you're really operating.
Yeah, I love that. I love the analogy you used of the operating system and then the architect, which speaks
Hmm.
to my tech background too. Like, I love that visual. As you were talking, I'm like, oh, so then they become the bottleneck. They are holding up their own company's growth and scale. And so
Correct.
as they're growing quickly and struggling to let go of things, what's the signal that they should recognize, or what's that point where they say, I need help?
Yes, there's this one thing I think about is there comes a time where there is good self-awareness
Yes.
in the business. And what will happen is that you are going to see that there are a lot of open loops in the business. What I mean is that there are a lot of unanswered questions. There are going to be assumptions that your team makes and also answers for themselves, because when you're the bottleneck, what happens is at scale, everyone is waiting for you to make decisions. And what's happening and what the CEO should be feeling in this moment is, because the decisions are increasing, the volume is increasing, the speed at which they have to do things is increasing, they will start to recognize that they cannot answer all the questions, right? People are going to start becoming very confused about what the priorities are. They are going to go into sort of a burnout phase, right? Because they're doing a lot of things all over the place with no real clear direction. And also, you're going to start seeing some of your best people will start to leave the organization because that open loop is not closed. But there's some great solutions for this. But what they're going to see is a lot of clumsiness or messiness in the operation. Things are not going to get done in the time that they need to have those things done. So you have over functioning. The CEO is still doing everything while everyone else is doing everything. You may still feel, while the revenue is coming in, you may still feel like a cash pressure. Okay, I'm gonna uh, do all these initiatives, but I need cash to do the initiatives, but I don't know if I'm going to get the returns or when that's going to happen. And you're making a lot of erratic decisions, and you're still feeling pressure and disorganization. There won't be a smoothness that you feel, even though you may actually have steady revenue. So there are signs in different places. And this is where I say that self awareness is important, because you need to recognize those signs. And also, I think what's important is, obviously I'm biased, but having a strong partner is going to help you to recognize the things that are going on around you. They say, oh, it's very hard to read the label of the bottle when you're inside the bottle. So those are some of the things that they can recognize, that it's time to really do something different.
I love that. And so much of what you said mirrors what I've observed, even in corporate, with
Hmm.
especially women who
Hmm.
end up in leadership
Hmm.
and struggle to let go or
Hmm.
say no to things
Hmm.
that somebody else should be doing.
Correct.
And they take on a lot of that low impact, low visibility, low value tactical work and
Hmm.
then some, like everything gets dumped on their plates.
Hmm.
They're afraid to say no. in the
Right.
corporate world, right? Because
Mhm.
as you said, women, we have to prove that
Yes.
we over succeed, like we over commit to things.
Yeah.
We go all out and we get everything done and try to pretend that we're doing it smoothly. But
Right.
it's really like,
Things are
pretty
on fire.
chaotic behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But we're like, no, no, we got this. And anytime anyone dumps more on our plate, we're like, yeah, we
We can
got
get it
this.
done.
And
We
it's
can get it done.
so you
Mhm.
see that struggle of women that are in that leadership layer as well in corporate having
Mhm.
those same challenges. So that's exactly what inspired me to branch off and build more of a leadership program that serves women where they're at in that messy
Mhm.
middle, because I think that that's an overlooked one. But I
Yes.
don't go from the operational, like I love that you're the partner. You work with them from an operational standpoint. And I know you focus on founders and entrepreneurs growing and scaling their businesses, but I do see a need for this in corporate too.
Mhm.
And especially for that level, more so my goal is to get them to identify that that pattern is happening, clear the
Right.
way so they actually have time to take my damn program
Exactly.
and actually
Exactly,
learn the real
exactly.
leadership skills and
Yes.
start digging in. I saw the need immediately when I'm like, I have this amazing program. So
Mhm.
many of these women are just overwhelmed and they're like, I don't even have time to take this program.
Right.
And it's like, well, let's clear your calendar.
Yes.
So I
That's what we
made,
need to do here. Yeah.
and all I could do, like the time that I have is I had a master class and I have a half day workshop to at least get them on the right path. But
Right.
it takes time
It does.
to build those habits, those structures, those processes. And I'm
Yes.
here with like, here's the roadmap, here's the follow-up 30-day action plan. But like, I think it's really important to have somebody like you that they partner with to clear the way and then take my damn program. No.
Exactly,
Okay, enough about that. Just
No, no,
but
I get it. They should be
yeah.
taking your program 100%.
Like,
100%. No, it's
but
true.
yeah.
It's true.
But yeah, no, I see those same behaviors mirrored in corporate, and I'm very aware of that for myself. So as I was building out my program and
Mhm.
building out the business, I was thinking, how can I build this in a way that I can scale?
Right.
And as I'm doing the different things, I'm like, I can't wait till I can hire somebody to do this.
Yes,
Like,
exactly, exactly.
but when it gets to the point where that will happen, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of emotions involved. And I'm
Oh,
sure
yes.
I'm going to struggle. I'm
100%.
human. I
Mhm.
likely will struggle to let go of that. And then I will have to call you um,
Call me up, I'll be here for you. That's for
because
sure.
it's easy to say in the beginning stages, but as
Yes,
things start moving fast and
that's correct.
yeah, your identity is more and more intertwined with the business.
Mhm.
It then becomes this untangling of that to scale properly. So
Right.
I love that we met when we did because I feel like people that come into my life or cross paths with me, it's always for a reason.
No, I
Like,
believe that as well.
always
I mean,
yeah,
and I agree with you that there's a lot of parallels within corporate and scaling businesses.
yeah,
A lot of it is, of course, that realization, the self awareness, and in fact, I would even say to some degree, and it's not to be like insulting, but like leadership maturity that is really required to understand it's not a failure. In fact, you know, getting the outside support, taking courses, things like that, that's actually showing that you are really ready to accelerate professionally or scale your business in a way that makes sense. And when I say scale, like not everybody is trying to, you know, create this great empire, but in order to really build a business and have it managed in a sustainable fashion, you really do need to start thinking about how are you going to be the one that is truly the head of the organization and thinking broadly about the business rather than doing what you did in the early days, right? Fighting
yeah,
the fires. And sometimes we do that because we're, as you mentioned, people are doing these low hanging, tasks. It's familiarity.
yeah,
There's comfort there. You
yeah,
have good command and control of that. And I would say those are the things that actually gonna have to let go because it's easy for you to go back and correct.
yeah.
It's the other things that are really going to drive your business, drive your career, that you need to really be polishing and working on and getting that outside support to get you to whatever that next stage is for you. So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
And when you're working with these founders, what is that? runway timeline look like? Do they know from the get-go? You come in and you're like, "I'm gonna be here," based on what you assess with them, like, "This is how long it's gonna take for us to partner together to get you where you need to go." Or is it just reevaluated at certain time points, I guess?
Yeah, I think there's like kind of a mix of both, right? Some CEOs are very clear about what they need. They've made up their mind about, and that could be based on, these are very smart women, right? Could be
Mhm.
based on where the business is at, what their goals are, and their financials. And so some are like, I have this thing that I'm working on. I know for sure I need somebody for 12 to 18 months. Okay. Now I'll say, like anything, sometimes you have that assumption, and then as you get into it, it could be longer. So there are some who are very clear about what that time frame looks like, and so I work in that realm. But also, there are women who are unsure, and what they are feeling is just overwhelmed, and they have a good sense of the pockets, the places that they need help. They're just not sure how to structure it, right? That's kind of why I'm there. And so what we do is, yes, we look at a certain time frame to be able to do some discovery, understand the business, understand the energies of the people. What are the real goals here? And map out a plan for that, always starting with some sort of assessment, always, to understand where we really need to go. And then from there, at a certain point, it could be 6 months, it could be 8 months, where now let's reevaluate. What does the scope now look like? Now that we have, answered some certain questions about maybe personnel, answered certain questions about the business model, um, what do we know now, and how far are we from the goal? And is the goal still the same? And so all of these things are going to play into like, what's that next phase? And, how much longer do you need support from me? And sometimes that support is just shifted to, rather than being more embedded and more involved in the daily operations, it steps back a little bit as being an advisor. So there's regular meetings, keeping the pulse of what's happening. And so it can be a gradual separation, if you will. But yes, that's usually there is a set amount of time to get some momentum and understand what will really get our foundation, and then review at a certain point. And even if it's a 12 to 18-month type thing, depending, there's always a checkpoint, right? To understand where we're at. Have the decisions we made earlier, do they still make sense now? So yeah.
Nice.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
exciting. And so I think I saw this on your profile, but I have here your positioning is engineer's mind, founder's grit, COO execution. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what I'll say is that for me, this was like a descriptor of
Yes, I love it.
myself, right?
Okay.
And really, I think I think I mentioned this off the top that I did graduate with an engineering degree, and that is really where I learned the structure, analytical thinking, etc. I started or co-founded a business, which helps me to really understand what it's like to be a founder. Right. I understand the scrappiness, the grittiness, the resourcefulness, the cash flow constraints of being a founder. And also now I've come to this point through a lot of, corporate experience as well, to elevate to executive level judgment, which is the COO portion. And, we talked a little bit about that mindset shift, right? From being a gritty founder or having that founder's mindset, it really is quite different than elevating yourself while you're scaling. And like I mentioned, in the early days, it really is about the speed, making very fast decisions. Whereas in the later years, or when you're scaling like 2 million plus, whatever it happens to be, what you're really thinking about is not so much the speed of the decision, but the quality of the decisions. That's
Yeah.
really what is important and is part of that mindset shift. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. As as a company is scaling, I think it's important to have that voice of reason in the room
Mhm.
because should we go there? Yeah, we should go there.
Go
Like,
there, go there,
let's go Sam Altman, OpenAI.
go there.
Okay? Like, do you see this where founders are just like, even though the company's successful, it's
Yes,
revenue stable, right? They have recurring revenue, and you have a founder who's just chasing the next dollar at all costs,
yes,
and you have to kind of rein them back in and remind them of the vision and like the values of the company, right?
yes.
Sam Altman needs this. So I'd love to share if you've seen an experience like that. Like, and how do you ground them in that, like, hey, don't lose your vision for your business to chase the next dollar, especially when you're already successful in revenue generating.
Yeah, it can be a challenge. In the beginning, what I like to do is really share my approach in working, which is I'm a very friendly person. I like to just let's get the work done. Let's not make it too, you know, crazy. But also, I'm very direct and clear. I'm here to help you. So I'm going to be honest with you. And I'm hoping that's the reason why you hired me. You're not hiring me to agree with you all the time. And I know that a lot of people say, well, a lot of CEOs they have so much ego, and in fact, I don't know if the word is ego is the right thing, but they have a certain level of confidence that they needed in order to even get to the place that they're at.
Yeah.
The way that I've dealt with this challenge is really being upfront. Like, if this is truly your goal, this is going to be my role. And you need to trust that I'm here to support you and I'm going to give you honest feedback. What I do after that is when the ego starts taking over, the best that I can do is present all options and what the consequences of those options are, right? And, really thinking through, if you go down path A, this is what could possibly happen. If you go down path B, here's the opposite that could happen. It is truly up to you. That they are the owners of their business. And I believe it's my responsibility to really just present the facts as they are. Some folks will choose to go the path of pride and ego, and they may feel that they get an immediate benefit from it. But I can assure you, there is a lot of downside with that, and a lot of things that they didn't anticipate that come with that as well. It can start to turn into a very messy business. I don't mean like business literally, but messy things happen, in terms of relationships and the knock on effects of those decisions, right? You talk about morals, you talk about team dynamics, there's all kinds of things. And then what happens is it's like you really can't stop the domino effect. Kind of have to just keep going in this vein that perhaps you never really intended to start with. It really depends on what the CEO is after. If they want to really focus on the business honestly, and they're honest with me initially, what it is that they're really trying to achieve, we can go far. That's what I'll say.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing that's top of mind for everybody, and what a blunder that was because you see a lot of people turning away from ChatGPT,
Yeah.
and I'm one of those people where, like, I've created custom GPTs that are used in my course, and now I'm
Yes.
actively have a plan in place to eventually move off of them. I have to,
Mhm.
redevelop and port
Yeah.
them into, another AI,
Yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
I like to drive my business according to my values, and do I wanna support a business that will just, chase dollar at any cost? And I don't. So I was ticked off because 'cause I'm like, "Well, I'm locked in right now, and so I need to figure out an exit plan here."
Yes.
And that kinda like, as a founder, pisses me off because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, man, now I really have to be aware of, like, what's my exit plan for every service and platform I use in the event that if they go belly up or
Yes.
they make these kind of decisions that
Mhm.
are questionable as far as values and morals go."
This is really important
Yeah.
in business building.
Yeah.
We used to refer to this, we probably still do in engineering and engineering design, is when you design a piping system, you for critical pathways or flows, you have a redundant system. So if one path goes down, you can flip over to the other. And now it's not that simple for those of us who are solo entrepreneurs or have small teams. It's not easy to just do all these things, have all these backup systems. But what is important is understanding what the backup plan might need to be, particularly when you are starting to feel very, very comfortable. Like when you're feeling really good, like, yes, I have everything set up exactly the way I want and applies to me as well. I have everything set up exactly the way I want. I have the team members that I want. Everyone is in place exactly the way that I want. Nothing can, like, I don't want anything to change. That is when the light bulb should go off.
Yeah.
It's like, what if something did change? What am I gonna do about that?
Yeah.
What if
Yeah.
something does change? And that's how the way we need to look at even people in supply chain will talk about that and diversifying your suppliers and, all that kind of like that's all the diversity, that's all the backup plans we need to have. I would say even on this note on AI, aside from the moral aspect, and some people don't care, right? And they will stay with ChatGPT, open AI, and that's their prerogative. But what I would say in general about AI, and definitely love to hear your opinion on this, is a lot of folks are using this tool, which is great. We should be using this in our operations for sure. Right? We know for sure that what it does is it helps us to speed up our processes. But one thing is that, in small businesses, particularly those that are scaling, we need to really remember that AI is a tool that we can use to accelerate the CEO's thinking, but not replace the judgment and reasoning, right? So you want to use the tools. I mean, we can analyze things, we can get forecasts, we can pressure test ideas and get that kind of information very quickly, which is really increasing the cognitive velocity, right? Which
Yeah.
ultimately is increasing our decision making. But there's going to come a time where, you know, the AI tool may present a lot of good information. And the question then becomes, okay, the numbers look great. We should take on this contract. It's going to be amazing for us, amazing for the brand, amazing for investors, board, whomever. But then the question is this the right time to say yes to this decision? What is the consequence of saying yes to the decision? And this is again where you have this, you know, senior leadership, the executive judgment and reasoning that is required. CEOs, they may be like, this is it. I need it. I need it badly. And I get that. But maybe it could be ego driving that decision when, in fact, the secondary consequence is, mm, team restructure. Were you ready for that? You got to hire more people. Now costs are going up. Were you ready for that? And so these are these secondary consequences that we really need to be mindful of. Like paired together, that it just amplifies everything, right? Using the AI tools plus strong executive judgment and reasoning and support will take you very far.
My goodness, we are on the same page
Yeah.
because this is something I can talk about till I turn blue in the face because to me, this is a very powerful technology,
Mhm.
extremely powerful. And more harm than good can come from it if not
Mhm.
used, responsibly.
Correct.
So that is something I do teach in my program too is the responsible and ethical use,
Mhm.
how to craft quality prompts, how
Mhm.
to ask, it to be critical of, your positioning, how
Okay.
to get it to challenge you, and then also how to evaluate the response
Right.
because sometimes it will just make up stuff. And
That's
like
correct.
it will make up links to, like, research, and then you click on the link, and it's like
Mhm.
404.
It's like,
And then you're like, "Hey, AI, like, that link doesn't work." "Oh, yeah, that's right, because that research doesn't exist."
exactly. It's like, okay, I'm glad you agree with me on that point after I've corrected you, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way I ask anyone using AI to think about it is it's like you said, it's a tool.
Right.
And there's not just one tool. There's so many different tools out there for your AI toolkit that you can
Mhm.
use. And I cover some of the most common ones I think would be beneficial for leaders.
Okay.
And so it's
Mhm.
like, Okay, so ChatGPT, very basic,
Mhm.
very basic stuff.
Yeah.
Deep reasoning, long form text and decision making. Let's look to Claude. And then
Yes.
you want research, go to Perplexity.
Love it. Love Perplexity.
So it's kind of
Mhm.
like all of these different tools that I'm touching on to say, here's their strengths, here's their weaknesses. But regardless of their strengths and weaknesses, you always have to do that due diligence and
Absolutely.
double check. And it's not meant to replace your thinking, right?
Right.
Or
Right.
decision making. So this is going to be the hot skill in the future as AI
Yes.
takes over.
Yes.
It's not gonna take over the strategic decision making where there is a lot of nuance to consider to make that final
Yes.
decision. You can
Yes.
pressure test a decision and have it challenge you as though
Mhm.
somebody like someone on your leadership
Correct.
team would challenge you
Mhm.
and get you thinking and see if that is valid.
Mhm.
But it's the only work I would relegate to an AI, and even then I would still review is like, clean up this email or is there an incomplete thought here? What am I
Yes.
missing? That's that's what I would trust it with, but even so, I still review before I
Same here.
send. Like,
Absolutely.
absolutely. But it can be used in a more powerful way, which we
Mhm.
explore through the program, but I love what you said, and
Okay.
it is around yes, it can elevate them and elevate their thinking and challenge them in different
Yes.
ways if they allow it,
Yes. Yeah.
but if they train it to be
Mhm.
a yes person, like in many corporations, there's kind of
Yes.
those leaders who surround themselves with yes
Mhm.
people. That's when it becomes dangerous. And
Right.
then it's not even, oh, it's just dangerous like because this person's only surrounding themselves with yes people and they're doing this
Mhm.
stuff that they probably shouldn't be doing. But this becomes a more powerful scale of a yes person.
Yes, this is true.
And
This is true.
that's where I think the risk and liability that
Mhm.
companies are not anticipating the risk and liability around this.
Yes.
Oh, see, I told you I could talk all day.
Well,
But yeah,
let's talk a little bit more, like, because this is cool, really interesting.
yeah,
Even I was thinking about 2 things. One is sometimes we have to just continue to do the basic and hard stuff now, what is
yeah,
considered hard, and just do the thinking
yeah,
ourselves. In some cases, I know the speed is there, it's just so tempting and it's just easier, but I think that also we have to continue to use our mental muscles. Otherwise, you get atrophy. You get the mental muscle atrophy. You just are not using it anymore, and that will become a prime skill. Like I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's one thing, and then also the other thing is I always think about because yes, AI tools they can do amazing things, a lot,
yeah,
and it's about which I'm sure you teach in your courses, it's about how do you get the most out of it, right? Using
yeah,
your expertise, your judgment. How do you really set it up in such a way that you're going to get the best out of it? You're better using it than not using it. Let's say, right?
yeah,
It just like magnifies your skill. But the other thing is that I think about the let's say the silent variables out there, like, for example, if you are in a team meeting or something like that, and there's, like, an energy shift, or personality or politics that is starting to play into decision making or influence, right? What the AI output has given you. Like these kinds of silent variables still exist,
yep,
right? And politics is real as well. And we have to factor those things into the decisions that we make. I think that for sure AI tools can get you to a place,
yeah.
but then that final gate, there's a lot of other things to consider before moving forward. So,
Oh,
fa
absolutely,
fascinating
absolutely.
topic, fascinating
I
topic.
have a funny story about AI in
Mhm.
meetings.
Mhm.
So, the person I reported to at my last job had said to me, "You need to capture better notes in meetings." And I said, "I don't
Oh,
capture notes in meetings because if I'm busy capturing notes, I'm missing what's actually being said.
right.
So, if you want someone to capture notes in meetings, you can do it. Or you can turn it on for all of us because it's available in
Yeah.
Teams and it's $4 a month per person." I think that's a valuable way to spend $4, don't you? And he was
Right.
like, "Okay, fine." So, turn on the AI, everyone gets it, we all love it.
Mhm.
It gets names wrong all the time, which is
Yeah.
hilarious. But then the one day we were talking about something I'm very passionate about, which is return to office, and I was
Mhm.
absolutely pushing back really, really heavily on it. And the
Mhm.
funny part was reading the summary after, it's you
Mhm.
just every paragraph started with Lori expressed her frustration at, Lori expressed her frustration about,
Whoa.
Lori expressed her frustration. And I'm like, yeah, I
I was
did.
frustrated.
That's amazing. It, like, completely summarized it, and it was and so just my colleagues that were in the meeting reading it because they were all curious how AI would interpret this,
Okay.
and they just had a blast reading it, we all did, we had a good laugh. But, like, it's exactly, it's like, I'm so engaged in the meeting, and the way my brain processes things, I cannot multitask, I cannot take
Yeah.
notes as someone's talking because then I'm eventually gonna miss the next point,
Uh-huh.
and or I capture something in a way that is probably not the way it was said. And, until I read it after, then I know, okay, that's different. So that was one fun way that I used it. And then the second fun way I used AI in my last role was when I went to resign.
Okay.
It was a decision that was made just in the moment. It was like, you know what?
Okay.
Today is the day. This isn't
I'm
working
done.
for me. I was
Mhm.
exhausted. And I was like, you know what? I need to write a resignation letter. But
Okay.
instead of just writing the letter, I went
Mhm.
into the internal version of ChatGPT, and I just typed everything out into this ChatGPT that was
Uh-huh.
internal, and then I
Uh-huh.
said, "Convert this into a resignation letter."
Just do it. Make it professional.
And you
Yeah.
know what? It did a beautiful job, like
Yeah.
a bang up job.
Mhm.
I reviewed, I'm like, I really like that.
Yeah.
That's probably a better way to say it without
Yes.
burning any bridges. And so
Correct.
copy, paste, and then I sent it to the people that needed to
Yeah.
receive it. And it just felt really good. And so when I tell people, yeah, I used it to craft my resignation letter, everyone has a good laugh about it. But I'm like, actually, that was probably the best use of it because
Mhm.
it took out the emotion,
Yes.
but I was still able to type out the emotion,
Mhm.
of like, I'm tired, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed. Nobody cares, right?
Yes.
But the resignation was just like for my mental health and well being.
Yes, exactly. No, I actually I love that. I've never really thought of it in that way where
Yeah.
you have an opportunity to get the emotion out through your
Yeah.
fingertips,
Yeah.
but gets beautifully converted into something professional that
Yeah.
people can really understand. And I also love this, like this is kind of what AI tools can do, is that it just scrapes off distracting things like
Yes.
emotion, right? Let's just put the information together so we can get to the heart of the matter
Yeah.
and really be focusing on the decision we have to make, what it is we're trying to communicate, instead of wasting all this time like we used to do back in the day,
Yeah.
where it's kind of like, well, I mean, this is like some of my own experiences. Oh, the tone of your email, blah blah blah. It's going back and forth. It's like, okay, but do you understand the point of what is happening here? And I was not necessarily maybe in the mood to spend a long time trying to craft the perfect email.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways, going off tangent, but I'm just saying that AI can definitely accelerate things and clear off the fluff, right? So that this
Yeah.
is where that strategic thinking starts to happen, and you just get to the heart of the matter and start dealing with real issues that really move your business forward, or you as an individual, your professional life forward in the way that you
Yeah.
need to present yourself as a leader. So,
Oh, it would
yeah.
have helped me so much in my younger years. 'Cause, like, I'm a firecracker by nature, and
Yeah.
so, like, I was raised like, I'm Lebanese, I was raised in, Middle
Mhm.
Eastern household, and we're just,
Mhm.
you were always going off about stuff, so I'm a
Mhm.
firecracker, and so in
Mhm.
my 20s and 30s, they got the unfiltered, raw version of what was on my mind, and AI
Mhm.
is that layer of protection
Yes. It is
that
a
it's
layer
like,
of protection.
I can say it to the AI, and then it can convert that into, like you said, takes out the things that don't need to be said
Mhm.
concisely,
Yes.
puts the message in a way that the person will be able to receive it.
Yes.
And then there is no discussion around, oh, I didn't like your tone. Because then at
Yes.
that point, if somebody says that, I'd be like, take it up with the AI
It's like, that's not my
because I
problem.
told the AI to be professional and it was
Yeah.
professional. So
Yeah,
whatever you don't like
exactly.
about the tone there,
Yeah,
I don't know
I
what
don't
to
know
tell
I
you.
don't I don't know how to help you here. Yeah, exactly. So there's definitely some large benefits.
Yeah.
There's no debating it. There's no
No,
debating it.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
yeah, and there is a lot of that in
Yeah.
corporate, and I'm sure as businesses grow, because I've worked in a startup that
Okay.
quickly scaled,
Mhm.
and boy, those were some growing pains and the
Yeah.
clashes, because you see a
Yeah.
lot of clashes happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I think it will benefit in that way, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, I the one thing I definitely caution leaders is it's not doing your work for you, but
Correct.
it's your power assistant, it's your thought partner,
Right.
and it will help you to get clarity on what matters
Right.
and maybe take a pause on the things that maybe aren't worth chasing down or even in the
Absolutely.
middle of a crisis.
Absolutely.
When you like I know the last company I worked at, there would be incidents during the day.
Mhm.
Systems would be down, everyone's on the
Mhm.
bridge freaking out, and I'm just like, just it's okay, let's figure it out, and in those moments where you wanna get the temperature down, and even if you are heated, you can at least maybe pressure test what you wanna say to the group
Yes.
through AI, let that then craft it in a better way, because I have
Right.
seen leaders lose their cool in times of stress, and
Mhm.
you lose trust with everybody when you act like that.
Absolutely.
And then nobody
Absolutely.
wants you on the call. And then when you are on
Exactly.
the
It's like
call and you do that, everyone just shuts down and no one's willing to share because they don't wanna get yelled at, and I've seen that.
right. It's like,
So
ooh. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's not cool. There's some other,
yeah.
challenges there for sure. Yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
This is a fun these are some fun things to practice in real
Exactly.
time, folks, so
Exactly.
please do that.
Exactly.
We are coming close to the end of time, and so I wanna be able to ask this question.
Sure.
If you could retire one old leadership rule about how founders should scale, what would it be and what would you replace it with?
The leadership rule that I would retire is the rule that the founder or CEO is is the source of every important decision. That I would retire. The reason for that is because the CEO in early days, like we talked about, the early days, you are doing things, making decisions very quickly. Speed matters. And when you are then scaling, like we talked about, the mindset shift, how you need to be thinking about your organization more broadly, you really need to start to develop a leadership structure that allows you to have the decision making with others in your team. What happens is that rather than the CEO being the source of the decision, they're actually now kind of like the quality control of the decision. They're the quality decision governor.
Yeah.
Okay, so their team should be empowered and should have the skills. Why you hired them, all the things to assess, right? You can use AI tools to assess, to understand what the options are, to make a recommendation. But is now the CEO's role, while they're in that scaling phase, to pressure test and challenge those decisions and then move forward with that. Like you have to be able to put something like that in place structurally because it is just not possible to continue to grow a business or run it sustainably if you are going to be at the center of everything. It will not happen. There'll just be ongoing confusion, stepping on toes, like, it's just not going to work well. Maybe you feel it's working well for you, but I can assure you, your team will probably be, thinking very differently about that. So I would say the only time that that would be different is if the decision is irreversible. If the impact is going to be very significant to the overall organization, right? Including the people, like the business model, like everything. If that is the case, then of course that decision is going to, rest with the CEO. But not every single decision needs to go through the CEO at that point. It really just doesn't make sense in terms of how you can operate efficiently and get the most out of your people and then get them thinking at like top quality level of thinking, right? Really strategic. And you can also reserve your headspace to make sure that it is aligned with the ultimate vision and the goals that you have for the business as well. So, yeah,
Yeah. And
that's what I would say.
I love that, and I know that that's a challenging thing for people to do, especially when you
Mhm.
grow from, like, you start off as the first employee and, and you're making all the decisions. But, yeah, I love that, and too many founders wait till way too late to let go of that piece of it so
Yes.
that they can focus on the bigger picture
Right.
and to the detriment of their own business,
Ab
essentially. So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love that.
So
So if people want to work with you, where can they find you?
I am all over LinkedIn. Just search my name, Nana Obeng. There's a few of us out there, but that's a lot. That's a long cultural story, but you'll recognize me when you see me. Otherwise, you can find me. You can just email me. My first name, Nana, at highpointconsulting.online. Online. That's where you can reach out to me. Of course, my LinkedIn has the ability to book a meeting with me to have a conversation, exploratory conversation, to learn more about what I do and how it can support you in your business as well. And yeah, there's, as you said, AI is available. Google's still out there. There's lots of ways to reach out and find me. So yeah, I'm happy to have a
Amazing.
conversation. Yeah,
And I'll put the link in the episode notes too.
absolutely.
So there was no mistaking how to find you, how to contact you. Thank you
Appreciate that.
so much for your time today.
Mm,
This was an amazing conversation.
It was a great
And
conversation. Yeah.
I think what you're doing is so important. And I anticipate at some point, knock on wood, I'm going to need that help.
Absolutely, I'm there for you. I'm excited
Selfishly.
about supporting strong women who yes,
Oh,
absolutely, absolutely.
awesome. All right. Thank you so much.
No problem. Chat soon.
The leadership advice that got many women this far will not necessarily get them where they want to go next. This phase of your career is not about working harder. It's about working strategically by deciding which rules still apply and which ones you are finally ready to outgrow. If this conversation resonated, stay with us, subscribe to the podcast, and join me here every Sunday for new episodes. And if it gave you language for something you've been carrying quietly, share it with another woman in your network who needs to hear it too. Until next time, lead with intention, question everything, and change the rules for the better. I'm Lori Lalonde, and this is Leadership Recalibrated.